The Washington Commanders win a nail biter against the New England Patriots. Was it all smoke and mirrors, or are we going to see this team perform a November miracle? Well, we'll tell you here because it's time for a reckoning. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District's Day After Reckoning, where we take a closer look at the game the Washington Commanders played the day before. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here on the Believe Network. And you better believe this team's got that W, and I'm rocking the onesie.
Yeah, love it. Love it that you got the old school onesie, the Redskins onesie.
I had to go old school for this one. I rotate them. I have the 4, and I try to get them going as far as, you know, where they are in the rotation. I started the year with the Commanders one, and then we lost, and then I had to put on the brand new Commanders one that I got that makes me look like Ronald McDonald. And then we lost again. And so this time I'm breaking out the old school one, and I'm hoping I get to wear this, 4 games in a row. I get to wear this 5 games in a row because that's the rule. You go on a winning streak and you get to keep the onesie rolling. So we'll see.
Yeah, you don't want to change anything. You got to keep the same mojo going.
Yeah, it gets hung up and ready for the next week. We'll see whether or not Washington can continue. But first, we got to take a look at this New England Patriots game. But before we do, you need to make sure that you are registered for Bet Online, because the last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling, and college basketball is ready to go as well. Bet Online remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your #1 source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access anytime. Head to the BetOnline today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Yes, sir.
Where we want to start, Stoner, is this offense here from the Washington Commanders. Now, they only put up 20 points, so I don't want to get too carried away with this here, because that's not exactly lighting the world on fire. But I think there's just so many dang positives to look at when it comes to this. And my question to you, because this is back-to-back games, we've kind of seen this offense really get its feet under itself. And I don't think it's been horrific. There's been pockets where it's not been good this season, but it's never been really horrific. And now we have 2 games where I'm looking at what I feel is a pretty good offense, something that we can consistently see week in and week out.
Yeah.
What is that a tribute to? You can't give me the easy out and say, oh, it's all of the above. You got to give me one of these 3 or take other. All right. Is it the fact that Tyler Larson and Chris Paul are in at the offensive line? Or is it Eric Bieniemy's play calling? Or is it Sam Howell has just figured it out and is him?
Yeah, believe it or not, Nathan, I'm not going to take the easy way out and give you a combination of the 3. I honestly and truly believe that this all can be attributed to Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator. He went through a stretch of a few games there where his play calling was just really, really bad. It was just constantly 5- and 7-step drops over and over. His run to pass ratio was like 80% to 20% for a long stretch. And it was just, everything was kind of out of whack. And you were asking a guy in Sam Howell, a first-year starter, to just drop back 50 sometimes a game. That's not going to work. And so at some point, he finally said, look, we can't keep doing this. I have to change up the game plan. Yes, Sam has played well. Yes, Tyler Larson and Chris Paul have played better than the 2 guys that they've replaced. But Eric Bieniemy is scheming to take advantage of Sam's strengths and to overcome the weaknesses of that offensive line. Because if you watch all of those plays, especially again in that first half, it was quick passes. it was screen passes, it was bubble screens, it was dump offs to the backs. And the tight end was staying back to block. And as soon as he hit the guy one time, Logan Thomas, he would drop off into the flat. Boom, 5-7 yards, whatever. So I attribute most of that offensive production, the change the last 2 weeks. First time they've been over 400 yards in back-to-back games in 4 years, something like that, 3+ years.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, I would attribute most of that praise would go to Eric Bieniemy. And everyone, and those other people that you brought up, they play a role. It's not just all Eric Bieniemy, but he has figured out something within the game plan, within the schemes that works for what he has available to him. And these last 2 weeks have proved that.
Yeah, these last 2 weeks against the Eagles, which is a very good defense, Washington was able to consistently move the ball. There were some troubles there in the second half, and I think that those troubles kind of came back a little bit here against the Patriots in the second half. But he is really, like you said, putting up this offense with a chance to succeed, to be successful. Now, that being said, I kind of got myself in a little trouble with the fellow Howlers yesterday during the play-by-play, where I insinuated, I didn't just insinuate, I straight up said it, Stoner. Said Sam Howell before this game has not shown enough to warrant being called the QB of the future.
Right.
John Allen watches the channel, and he came out in his post-game presser, and he was just like, Sam Howell's going to be the QB for the next decade.
Yeah.
What have you seen from Sam Howell over these last 2 games that makes you think Sam Howell should be the franchise quarterback?
The biggest thing that I've seen over these last 2 days is his ability to change, his ability to adapt to what has gone wrong in those previous 6 games or 7 games. He has seen that, look, I cannot keep taking sacks. And he has made a conscious effort to get out of the pocket, throw it away, get out of the pocket and scramble a little bit. Just doing little things. I've noticed his awareness in the pocket, his pocket presence has even improved. You see him making these little adjustments, stepping up into the pocket and making throws, or standing there when the pocket is not collapsing. We've seen him get out of the pocket when it hasn't been a bad pocket. He had probably 3 or 4 throws in a tight pocket, but not a collapsed pocket. And he was able to complete a few of those down the field when he's needed to. So I think that's the biggest adjustment is he's looked at his weaknesses and he said, I've got to figure out how to make them better. I have to improve. And he's done that. And like you said, these are not bad defenses. This is the Eagles, who have a pretty good defense, especially their front 4 or 5. And then, of course, the Patriots. And all week, what did we hear? Bill Belichick eats first and second year quarterbacks for lunch. Well, he didn't eat Sam Howell for lunch. And I think just that improvement these last 2 weeks on his pocket presence and his awareness, his willingness to go ahead and dump it to his backs, to throw it away and live for another down, that's been a huge advantage for this offense the last couple of games.
Yeah, I would actually even go as far as to say, Stoner, that, and my question I asked you, I would say Sam Howell's improvement is the reason why this offense is starting to really get going, because Eric Bieniemy's play calling has improved the last couple of games, but he has had, these plays where there was a hot route or there was an outlet. Sam just wasn't hitting it. Sam was always looking for the big play.
Yeah.
And now what we've seen from Sam Howell these last 2 games is, like you said, he's hitting those checkdowns. He's living to fight another day. He's throwing the ball away and he's moving away from the pass rush. These are things we hadn't really seen. And that's why I had said that early on in the play-by-play yesterday was Sam Howell needs to show us the Eagles game. And now this Patriots game, that's the QB who he is. And he can even improve from this because we've seen wow throws all season.
Sure.
But we've also seen 40 some odd sacks. And we've also seen bad decision making. And he did make one egregious decision.
Yeah. It was
and there's no excuse, right? That's why it's an egregious mistake. Him throwing in to 5 Patriots and only 2 Washington players was just a bonehead mistake. And there's no excusing it. But what we've seen from Sam Howell makes Terry McLaurin think that he's got the QB of the future. It makes Jonathan Allen think that they got the QB of the future. It makes Nathan Perry think we have the QB of the future. And jury still, we don't have to make that decision. It is, of course. We don't have to make that decision right now, right? We still have a full half of the season to go through.
Sure.
But I love seeing the improvements that he's making, and I want to see him continue doing that, because if we have the QB of the future, and of course it's not your decision, it's not my decision, it's likely not Ron Rivera's or Marty's decisions, it's maybe not even Eric Bieniemy's decision.
And Ron said, you said, Terry McLaurin said it, Jonathan Allen said it, you said it, Ron Rivera said it. Whether he's going to be here or not, Ron Rivera said it last week. Look, we found our guy. That's the only thing that's going to save Ron Rivera too. If somehow he wants to save his job, and let's say he gets to 8 or 9 wins and gets to the playoffs, Sam Howell is going to be the only thing that can save his job.
Don't even think that
because he can say, I drafted him, I developed him, I brought him in here, let me see it through. But you're right, Nathan. I am to that point. I've said it, well, probably from about week 3, maybe, probably even before that, maybe, because I was not a howler. If you watch any of this channel, I was not a howler at the beginning, but I saw him progress from last year all the way to this year. I'm convinced he can be the guy, but he does have another 8 games. What is his record? Yeah, 8 games to prove that. Because if he goes out for these next 8 games and throws up on himself, then you can easily just say, no, he's not the guy. He's got to do it for a full season.
Yeah. Big kudos to Zampese, by the way, who is the quarterback's coach, and really working with Sam Howell and getting him to improve on this, these aspects of his game, because that's going to go a long way for Washington when it comes to whether or not Sam Howell is the quarterback of the future. One thing I will caution people for, okay, is right now Sam Howell is 2nd in the NFL in passing yardage. He's like 6th or 7th in, I think, touchdowns, and like the box score stats are outstanding. Okay, and I love him. He's got a great completion percentage. His rating is equivalent to like Jalen Hurts over the last 10 games, or Joe Burrow, and all these QBs that we fall in love with and everything like that. Curb it on the box score checking, and pay attention as Stoner does with his eyes on the field, and whether or not he convinces you that he has it, that he's the one there, or look at some of the more advanced analytics, because we don't want someone who is just a box score stuffer.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is Sam Howell. But I just want to caution everybody, because that's been the big buzz today, Stoner, is Sam Howell 2nd in passing and all this other stuff. And it's just like, okay, but he's also throwing 55 times per game. And he's still
that's right.
Like
he leads the league in attempts.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So he's gonna probably have more yards than most people. But like you said, some of those things, the completion percentage, even though he is throwing it a lot, he is completing at a high rate, and his interceptions are at 9.
Yeah, he is one of the top. He is in the top 10 as well with the interceptions on the season.
I agree, Nathan. It's nice to look at, but you kind of have to watch it in context and make your own decision there.
Yeah, we mentioned the completion percentage. Just made me think, dovetail here why we're still in the offense. The drops, man, he's being killed by some of these drops, and it's so frustrating to see. I brought up the fancy stat where he's like a catchable pass and everything like that. There's just been so many drops that he could be in the 70s for completion percentage if his wide receivers just helped him out a little bit more. But you're gonna get that coming and going. It is strange to see Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, who are known for catching even difficult passes.
Yeah,
but I think that those two will continue to develop, and hopefully they will develop with QB1. On the other side of the ball, Stoner, this was the first defensive outing without Montez Sweat and Chase Young on the team. Obviously, we've had times before where they were both injured, but this is really the first post trade game where we get to see what this roster might look like without one of those two edge rushers. What were your thoughts on the replacements coming in for both Chase Young and Montez Sweat?
Well, I think this is what I love about Day After Reckoning. Yesterday, we had our instant reaction, and you're juiced up. We do it literally 10 minutes after the game ends, and we're juiced up over the win, or in previous ones, we're mad about a loss or something. But then today, we have the chance to kind of get that sleep and refresh our brains and watch tape and all that, and you get a big difference in what we were thinking yesterday and what we saw today. And offensively, I thought they were actually better than what I remembered yesterday. But defensively, Nathan, I actually thought that they were a little bit worse.
Yeah, we were singing the praises yesterday. It was pretty much everything was centered around, well, they had that one big 64-yard touchdown run, but that was it. The defense held their own outside of that. And maybe not quite what was the case, Stoner, was it?
Yeah. Those two guys who replaced, which is James Smith-Williams and Casey Toohill. Look, Casey Toohill really was not a factor in this game. He was completely stymied. Just zero factor. I think his only stat was he had a pressure, and that was it in 42 snaps in this game. So, but James Smith-Williams, he did make a few plays. Obata made a few plays. But overall, defensively, I didn't think that they were as good as what they ended up with, the 17 points. I thought New England's offense helped them out so much with bad plays, with bad quarterbacking. Think about the 4th down play in the first half that Mac Jones missed a wide open receiver. St. Juice was beat pretty bad on that. Think about the some of the other throws that he had. If you the one to Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th quarter that Jamin Davis was beat pretty bad and had to come back. If that was a good pass, he scores an easy touchdown on that. He was wide open, but it was too high and gave Jamin Davis time to come back to it. And just a lot of plays like that. They were effective against stopping the run, other than the one long run. I think they were 18 for 43 other than that long run. But you can't discount the long run. So they ended up giving up over 100 yards rushing, 107, I think. It's concerning that this defensive line is still unable to get pressure on the quarterback by themselves. I think of the 42 snaps that Toohill had, 37 of them they rushed 4. So they had no blitzing, no help, no nothing. And they just didn't create a lot of pressure. Now, Mac Jones was getting the ball out quick like Sam Howell was, but still, on those times, I mean, the one time they got their most pressure, they got called for a penalty for roughing the passer, which was the worst penalty in history.
Start on that joke there.
Yeah, they've got a ways to go, Nathan. Still,
they do, and so when looking at that, and we're doing a clip up of Casey Toohill's snaps, and that's going to be on the channel if you haven't already seen that by the time we are watching our Day After Reckoning here, and it shows me like James Smith-Williams and Casey Toohill, they're fine, right? They're okay. They are the definition of just another guy, though. Okay, sure. They are absolutely Jags. They are not special. And as much grief as people wanted to give Chase Young for freelancing or being a diva and everything like that, Chase Young showed us he has something special. Okay, he might not do it every down. He's not Casey Toohill in that factor. Where Casey Toohill, I think out of all those plays, I think I counted one where it seemed like he kind of gave up on the play. And I mean, the play was like 10 yards and it was by the sideline. So by the time he was like trying to get over there, he started jogging because there's nothing much he's going to be able to do. Yeah. But outside of that, Casey Toohill does have a high motor, right? And James Smith-Williams, his savviest play was the fact that he went down and gave an extra bit of time. So sure. Ron Rivera could throw his challenge flag. But it was so frustrating to watch it because I was just like, these guys, no one fears them. They can go, the offense that we're going to be playing against for the rest of the season will have no problem putting a right tackle and a left tackle against these guys one-on-one.
Right.
You don't need to chip block them. You don't need to double team them with the guard. You're going to focus everybody on the inside with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, because on the outside, you just don't have a guy. We don't have a guy who's going to be winning it. And Stoner, it wasn't so bad. I don't want to say that it was so bad. It was so mid. How's that? It was so mid that I think that an edge rusher is probably more of a need for this team than an offensive lineman. I know that's blasphemous. I know everybody wants an offensive lineman. They want Sam Howell to be the guy. They want an offensive lineman and to protect him and do all this other stuff. But I'm telling you, we can work with an offensive line that's kind of, cookie cutter. All right. Yeah. Just got to kind of pull a couple pieces. We're not going to get very far if we don't have a premier edge rusher. We got to have somebody out there who can win a one-on-one and consistently, who needs to be double teamed. So in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to your people's comments on this one in YouTube or hitting us up on Ref the District's social media channels. But in my opinion, an edge rusher should be the #1 overall pick. Right now, here in November, it's far too soon to really look at the draft, but that'd be my pick in round 1 as an edge rusher, because we just don't have the guy here.
Yeah, I think you're insane with that statement. I don't mind second rounder, but you 100% look. We like Charles Leno, and you always talk about Charles Leno as far as he's
so underrated. He's so underrated.
Yeah. Right. He's fine. He's not great. I mean, he wasn't getting killed yesterday, right? But I think he has 1 year left on his contract. We need a left tackle, Nathan. We need a left tackle that's going to be there for 10 years. Okay. We need Trent Williams more than we need Joey Bosa, if we're going to use San Francisco, Hall of Famers. Okay. We need Trent Williams more. Then if you want to go and get a guy in the second round as your edge rusher, then fine. Hey, look, I know there's a free agent out there who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year that you can go get. His name rhymes with Schmace Mung. So you might want to go and see if he's available, see if he wants to come back to Washington. But yeah, I think you got to go left tackle with your very first pick. And they've ignored that for so long in terms of a high draft pick on the offensive line that it's showing up. It's showing up now that we're having to piece together with 5th and 7th and 6th rounders, other than Cosme, of course. So that's where I disagree with you, but I get where you're coming from with that statement.
It's just, I mean, the good news is, Stoner, thanks to the Montez Sweat trade, they will have what is almost guaranteed to be like a first 5 in the second round, because
plus their own, might end up being a first 5 in the second round as well.
You never know. You never know. You got a couple second rounders, and I know typically people don't like those here in Washington, but we got to do something for an edge rusher because they were just not it. Now, that being said, Stoner, I was very happy to see the young guys getting their time to shine. In fact,
I think so.
That last play, Stoner, tell me who was on the field for that last play.
Well, on the line, you had KJ Henry and Andre Jones Jr., both rookies, 5th and 7th round, right? They were your defensive ends. Your defensive tackles were, I think I said Jonathan Allen, but I was corrected. It was F.A. Obata. F.A. Obata, and then also second-year guy, Fedarian Mathis. Then you had at linebacker, you had Jamin Davis. And then your secondary, you had 2 rookies, Forbes and Quan Martin. Then you had a second-year guy in Percy Butler, and then you had a third-year guy in Benjamin St. Juste, along with your third-year guy, Jamin Davis, and then you had your veterans, Kendall Fuller and Cam Curl. So out of your 11 guys out there, 8 of them are in their first 3 years. I think that's significant, and we got some blowback saying, hey, they didn't really do anything. Juju Smith-Schuster tipped that ball up to get it picked off, but whatever. They were out there.
Yeah.
They were out there and they made a play.
And they were out there at a trusted moment. This wasn't like some random second quarter drive that we're seeing the young guys out there. This is a fourth quarter 2-minute drill that the New England Patriots need to get a field goal, or they can try to score a touchdown to win the game there
Yep.
And we have that many young guys out there. And
Yeah.
even on offense, you're seeing some of the younger guys get their time. And I think that just is really good for this team. And whether or not they go on a run, Stoner, or they don't go on a run, I think I'm not saying that this team is loaded with talent. Okay.
Right.
I'm not saying we're brimming with like, the next superstars at every position or anything like that. But I do think that Washington, especially with Sam Howell continuing to develop and these young guys that are on defense and these young guys who are contributing on offense, this is an attractive spot. If Ron Rivera doesn't survive, which no one believes he's going to, he might, even if he makes it into the playoffs and wins a playoff game, it's very likely we've seen the last of Ron Rivera coaching here in Washington, just because they'll want to move on with somebody who can take this team from what he's built and take it to the next step, right? And I think there are pieces there that Washington makes Washington a spot where you do have something to build upon, and you can come back and look at this particular play, which I don't understand when people were like, they didn't do anything. Quan Martin got his first interception. Was it off of a tip? Yes. Was that tip because Kendall Fuller was playing excellent coverage? Yes. So were there other people who were open? I don't remember seeing anybody else open. I think, and was the pressure there for Mac Jones? Was it getting rid of it? I mean, look back at that play and you'll see that Washington trusted their young guys to make an impact, and it worked.
Yeah, I agree. And throughout the game, those guys were out there with the KJ Henry sack, no sack, whatever you want to say. Andre Jones was out there. He made a couple plays.
Tip to pass. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've been killing Forbes, rightfully so. But Forbes was out there making plays. He almost had a couple of picks. He had, I think, 2 pass breakups. He had a nice open field tackle on Ramondre Stevenson. He had another play where he was the closest guy to the thrown ball from Mac Jones, not the receiver. And you saw, and look, Quan Martin, he pops on special teams. He doesn't pop so much defensively. Every once in a while you'll see him. But on special teams, he pops. He's pretty darn good there. So look, we got to give them their just due here in this particular game. And hopefully we see more of them getting more and more snaps. Now this week coming up, we'll talk about it later, but Seattle is a formidable foe, especially those receivers. We'll see what happens. But at least for this week, the young guys showed out.
Yeah, Emmanuel Forbes he absolutely needed to be in this game. They started him. He got the chance, and the Patriots were trying to attack him, and he wasn't having it. He was doing a great job. You mentioned the one near interception that he had. That was, Smith-Schuster having to play defense there, and likely could have been called for offensive pass interference.
It was.
Because and Forbes also proving why he's not a receiver, because he had like 2 or 3 shots at that ball and didn't come down with it. But he did have a guy draped all over him. But there was a lot of great, I thought, that we saw from Emmanuel Forbes, and we talked a little bit about it. But did he do enough, Stoner, to get into our go-goes and no-goes?
Interesting.
So, you know that I always like to start off with actually the no-goes, even though this is a go-goes and no-goes.
Yeah,
I like to do the no-goes because I like to end on positive.
Sure.
So let's get right off here with the no-goes for the Washington Commanders against the New England Patriots. Who is your no-go for this game?
It's hard to take a no-go because when you win and it's hard, and there wasn't guys that really stood out and played bad, but gosh, I think I'm probably going to have to go with Bieniemy Brown. I mean, Bieniemy Brown did contribute. He did have a few catches in there, but there were 1 or
4 targets.
Yeah, there were a couple of plays that he could have made a play, and especially if you think about that one in the end zone, where if you watch it in slow-mo of how, relatively speaking, it was an easy catch. It was not an easy catch. He had to jump for it, but I mean, it went right through his hands. It wasn't too high that it went way over his hands. Right? It went right through the middle of his hands. He should have caught that. You know what happened the next play, Nathan? The very next play, and I could be wrong. maybe it's 2 plays or whatever. Yeah,
sure. Same drive.
When the interception, same drive. That's when they had the interception in the end zone. It was a couple plays before that. So if I'm going to go ahead and give a no-go, which I don't really want to on this because there was nobody that stood out, I'm going to give it to Bieniemy Brown.
Yeah, usually there's 1 or 2 players that you can look at, or coaches or something, you know, or plays or something where you can look at and be like, yeah, that was bonehead. And that was dumb. And you're going to be my no-go. And maybe that is the Sam Howell interception for some, but I think he played well enough to stay away from being a no-go. The drops by Bieniemy Brown, Jahan Dotson, even Terry McLaurin, not being 100% reliable. Sure, you can look at them, but I'm going to go with a guy who I spent significant time looking at and wanting to see anything from, and that's going to be Casey Tuhill.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Fair.
I mean, when you're looking at it, and I mean, if you just want to go even just by the box score, he had just 1 tackle.
Yeah.
And that was it. He was not effective. He was not disruptive. You know, we call him Casey 2 sacks, right? He got those 2 sacks against Atlanta. He flashed on occasion for other games. In this game, in his first game that he's getting a big opportunity to prove that he should stay on this roster, he laid an egg.
Yeah,
he really did. I mean, I like the high motor, and I like that. I mean, he is maybe you could call him a glue guy, right? Where he is a guy you kind of need on the roster, you know, but he really didn't do anything special at all.
Fair.
And he was just wiped away. You know, whether or not he was on the left or right side, he just was not a factor. And you need to have your edge rushers be a factor on that defensive line.
Yeah, that's fair.
Moving on to the good side of it, Stoner, our go-go's, which, like I said, in a victory where you're very, you know, it's a close victory. It's an ugly win. It's not, you know, but I tell you what, there's a lot of people who can probably get put on this go-go list here. So we'll let you, I'll release my, hold on you. You can go ahead and pull a Stoner if you want.
Okay.
And rattle off a few here.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not going to say the easy one, which is Sam Howell. I thought Sam Howell was really, really good, especially the next day watching every play. I thought he was even better than I thought yesterday. He was just really good. And I bumped his grade from a B+ to an A-. That one interception clouds everything. If they'd lost the game, he probably would have been like a C because of that interception would have held so much weight. But I think I have to go with, and we talked about him earlier in the show, I think I have to go with Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy, I thought, called another masterful game. They only had 2 drives in the third quarter, and they scored a touchdown and a field goal. And we charted it during the live play-by-play. Short pass, short pass, short pass, run, short pass, deep. Then he finally goes deep, and then short. That's what is successful for this team right now. Maybe in the future, when you have better pieces, then you can have more deeper drops, more times that will be successful. But that's what this team needs right now, and he did it. And whether it was his decision or Ron's decision to change out the center position with Tyler Larson, and then Chris Paul is in there at left guard because of an injury, but still he's there now. And I kind of noticed a real good communication between Larson, Paul, and Leno on that left side. So everything that Eric Bieniemy, all the buttons that he pushed in this game seemed to work offensively. So I give him my go-go for this week is offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. I think he's been my no-go like 3 or 4 times. So so he's off.
Trying to break even, trying to get to 500 is Eric Bieniemy here on the go-go's and no-go's. For my go-go, Stoner, when looking at the opportunities players had, Curtis Samuel was out for this game. And so it was a big question of who's going to step up in his place. Jamison Crowder looked good last week against the Eagles, getting extended time in that kind of similar play set that Curtis Samuel's being seen. This time, as you mentioned, Bieniemy Brown has his opportunities, 6 targets for Jamison Crowder. But the one who I thought stood out this week as a relatively, unused to this point wide receiver was Byron Pringle.
Yeah.
And he caught 3 of the 4. He was well behind the defense on that 4th target as well. He was the target of Sam Howell's, I don't know what the heck he was thinking, desperation throw across his body high up in the air. I really thought that was going to get intercepted, but Byron Pringle came down with it and then got significant yards. I honestly, I'm not sure why that play hasn't been like on loop for people's like highlight reels, because if this were Patrick Mahomes or Joey Burrow or Josh Allen or anybody,
Taylor Heineke, down there
and you just do that and it gets there. Like, I mean, they're like, wow, that was amazing. And it was just crazy is what it was. But Byron Pringle made that work and got the extra yards off of it. And I liked what we saw from him, and we're going to need, if Curtis Samuel is going to miss significant time, Jamison Crowder, Bieniemy Brown, and Byron Pringle are going to have to step up. And I thought Byron Pringle did that admirably this game against the Patriots.
We saw him in training camp, and he popped in training camp. Well, we saw him. We was like, oh, that's wide receiver 4 right there. Because he is a very good route runner, and he has a lot of speed. And then, like you said, all those plays he made yesterday were key. So yeah, I like
EB guy. He's an EB guy.
Hey, so that's another little peg.
Another check for Eric Bieniemy. Yeah. Let's get to our final thoughts. Washington winning a nail biter 20-17 against the New England Patriots. You know, coming up, they've got the Seahawks. They got to travel across the country.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up this Patriots as we move on to Seattle.
Well, I mean, look, it's a massive, massive game this weekend against Seattle. The biggest of the year, not even close. It's not a must win. I'm not even going to say that, but this is a spot where Seattle is 5-3 and they're like in the 5th spot. Washington, you even said it earlier. Let's not get too carried away, but Washington is right there for a playoff spot. They're the 8th seed. And who is the 7th seed? The Vikings and Josh Dobbs. God bless him for that play yesterday, the way he played yesterday, but he's not going to be long-term leading this team to victories up and down. That was Atlanta they played. So they did what they had to do. Their 4 wins this year are against 4 bad teams, 4 really bad teams in Arizona, Denver, Atlanta, and now New England. So let's not get carried away with this team in terms of, is this team going to make this big playoff push? They're probably going to win 7 or 8 games, but 7 or 8 games might get you in the playoffs this year again, because of how bad the rest of the NFC East or NFC is. So let's try and keep that in mind as we start looking big picture for the rest of this year. Let's not start calling for tanking and losing and all this. They've still got a shot for that 7th seed in the playoffs. They have winnable games, Nathan, ahead of them.
Yeah, not even just by the way, the 7th seed. Washington's the 8th seed right now. Okay. Right. They're in 8th position. I guess it's not a seed if you're not in there. The Vikings, the Saints, and the Cowboys, and the Seahawks and 49ers are all within a game or so.
Right.
Seahawks, San Francisco, and Cowboys are 5-3, but Saints and Vikings are 5-4. Those 2 lose. Washington wins. Everyone's 500.
You're in a playoff spot.
You're in a playoff spot. You're in contention. It is so frustrating, Stoner. So frustrating when I see fans or hear fans talk about, well, we're not good, and why do people want to cheer on? And when this team's going to be mid and going to be a 15, let all that sort out. Right now, you have games to win.
Yeah.
Okay. And they just won one against the Patriots. Don't come looking back and telling me that, oh, this is the reason why they ended up with the 6th seed instead of the 5th seed. We'll look at that down the road. All those decisions are down the road. What's right in front of us is a chance to make a run.
Absolutely.
They played well against the Eagles. They beat the Patriots. If they can beat Seattle, which is a good team, but maybe not a great team. I mean, when you look at Seattle, they beat the Panthers, the Giants, the Cardinals. Like these are some of the wins. Now they have good wins against the Lions. They've got a win against the Browns, but they just got trounced by the Baltimore Ravens. we're not the Baltimore Ravens. We're not going to beat Seattle 37-3, but if they can build off of what we saw here with this Patriots victory, I'll be mightily impressed. And I think that Washington can go on a run.
I think one of those things that you look at when you play a bad team and you have guys like Forbes and Martin and Mathis and guys out there who may not be out there if you're playing the Eagles, but they're out there in this game and they're excelling and they're building confidence. And that helps build towards the next game. Maybe they can build upon what they've done in this game moving forward and not just have us constantly say, well, they're just no good. They've proved it time and again that they're not good. They lost to the Giants. They lost to the Bears. But there are a lot of bad teams out there, Nathan. And if you look at other teams, you mentioned the teams that, who was it that you were saying that had those wins?
They beat the Panthers, the Giants. This is Seattle that beat
Seattle.
This is
right.
3 of their 5 wins are against bottom dwellers.
And look at, who do you think is a top 5 team right now? Are the Dolphins a top 5 team, even though they lost yesterday? Are they a top 5 team?
Probably, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. They've beaten the Chargers, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Giants, and the Panthers. And the Patriots again. Sorry. So their 6 wins are against the bottom of the barrel as well. And yet we want to anoint them. Just think if Washington had just beaten, let's just say, the Giants in that game.
That's a big one.
5-4 instead of 4-5. We have a totally different outlook. But they didn't, and they lost, and that plays into how we view this team. But beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Giants, Rams, Jets. Give me one more. Giants, Rams, Jets. There's another winnable game in there. I can't remember.
For Washington?
For Washington, yeah.
Washington, as I have to bring it up here.
Maybe it's just the Giants, Rams.
Yeah, so you got the Giants, the Rams, the Jets, and that's really it. I mean, the rest of the games, Seahawks, Cowboys, Dolphins, and 49ers, and the Cowboys again. I mean, they have a tough road ahead.
Right.
Make no doubt about it.
Beat the teams you're supposed to beat, those 3 teams. Steal one, maybe a Cowboys at home, maybe a Seattle this week or whatever, and you're at 8 wins. 8 wins this year, just almost like last year when it was 9-7-1 that got that last spot. 8 wins might get you a playoff spot this year. And that's what you're going for. So there is a little bit of hope. They haven't shown that they can beat a good team. They've shown that they can lose to bad teams. I get that. But let's build off this New England win. Give the young guys even more confidence. Sam Howell can put you on his back and win a game or 2. And let's just see what happens.
All right. Well, we will have plenty to talk about here on Ref the District. So wherever you are watching or listening, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe, make sure you're leaving us a rating if you're on an audio platform. And we are presented by Bet Online, and you'll be sure to check us out on Wednesday live here on YouTube. Join the conversation with us, but we'll have daily Commanders updates in between, and your game preview for Seattle. Seattle will be out on Saturday. But until next time,
welcome to 2023, Eric Bieniemy.
Be a fan.
Here we go.